Welcome to the NAMP's January webinar. We are glad you have joined us. Today our topic is 5 critical benefits of the mobile cloud solutions for mortgage field service. This webinar will be recorded and made available on the NAMP's website for members to download. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the box on your screen and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Today we are pleased to have our guest speakers Kamal Shah and Robin Dropa. Kamal Shah is founder and CEO. He has a photo notes. He has 20 years of experience building technology products and companies. Kamal was founder and president of INU Technology for 7 years. Prior to that, he served as chief architect in enterprise software companies Wakesoft and Smashcast. He started his career as a software engineer in the early 90s. Kamal has a master's in engineering from the University of Toronto, where he was also captain and nationally ranked member of the University of Toronto swim team. Robin Dropa, VP of Sales, has 20 years of emerging and enterprise technology sales experience. As the CEO and co-founder of iConvention, Inc., Robin led the company with an early SaaS cloud software product whose clients included CMP, Avantastar, SEMI, and IDG, and other global trade publishing and event management companies. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Kamal.
Great, thanks, Liz. And Liz, you're also going to give me control. Oh, there we go. Show my screen. Okay, great. All right, great. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. As Liz mentioned, today we'll be talking about the 5 critical benefits that companies in mortgage field service can get out of mobile cloud solutions based on some of our experiences over the last number of years working in this industry and others very similar to it. Just as a quick agenda, so we'll start with some introductions. Liz made some great introductions to both Robin and I, and we'll tell you a little bit about our company, the areas that we've been working in. I'll then do a quick overview of sort of mobile cloud, what it means, some context in terms of how much this technology has really evolved and transformed from a technical perspective, but even the way it just impacts our daily lives, and then leaves that to lead into how mobile cloud is important to business, and then specifically in the mortgage field service market, what we see as the 5 critical benefits that companies in this industry can gain from mobile cloud solutions, and then we'll wrap up with Q&A and happy to answer any questions that you have. So just a quick introduction to our company. As Liz mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of PhotoNotes. I've been in the technology industry for 20 years. I spent most of my career building software solutions for solving business problems and been fortunate enough to work on solutions that are used by some of the biggest companies in the world, NBC Interactive, Citibank, Bank of America, Cisco, and really have had a lot of experience over the years in looking at problems that exist in industries, exist in business, and building software solutions to solve them. And PhotoNotes is really really taking this to mobile and cloud and seeing how we can leverage mobile and cloud technologies to solve business problems. So we were founded in 2009. As you know, we're a mobile and cloud software company. We specialize in building workflow solutions for the real estate industry and cover a wide different of workflows, but primarily focused on field service operations. Our team is comprised of a number of Silicon Valley veterans, so it means we're old, but we've been in the industry for quite a while. And we have customers that range from large Fortune 500 companies like CBRE, one of the largest commercial property management companies in the world, McKesson, a very large, also Fortune 500 healthcare company that we work with on their facility management side, companies in the property management space like Cityside, and work with asset managers like Waypoint Homes. And we also work with a number of small businesses, so we work with companies from the range of Fortune 500 down to small business that might be 5-person construction companies. And our solution sort of scales between being easy to use and simple to get off the ground for some small companies, but scalable to very large companies. And we're happy to have been NAMPS members for a couple of years as well. And I'll let Robin do just a quick brief introduction to herself as well. Robin Dropa is our VP of Sales. I'll let her say a few words. We'll be kind of doing a joint presentation here, and then we can get into the next steps.
Hi, thanks, Kamal. I'm Robin Dropa, and I work with our customers. So I've had the pleasure of being very involved in NAMPS, attending several events, also attending events in other areas of mortgage servicing, and have quite a bit of exposure in your industry. I've actually even been out in the field a bit just to observe how people can do work and improve their work with software. So I think you already did a good job of talking about my background, but as Kamal mentioned, I've got quite a few years of experience in technology, so I've seen everything from the days when the web was the hot new thing all the way to today when I upgraded my brand new smartphone and found out that I can use a fingerprint to unlock it, which is my new fascination with technology. So I'll be here to talk a little bit about what I've observed from the customer perspective, which many of my customers are vendors, to mortgage servicers as well as mortgage servicers themselves. And thanks, Kamal.
Okay, great. All right, so before we kind of get into some of the things, I really, I think to give it a little context of where technology has come, I think mobile, when we talk about mobile and cloud, we're talking about mobile devices that are connected to the cloud, allow us to communicate, and it's really pervaded almost, every aspect of our daily lives. It's the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning is check our phones. Probably the last thing we do before we go to bed in many cases is check our phones. And we're using smartphones for all sorts of things, from checking email to booking reservations to looking up driving directions. And it's really sort of pervaded every aspect of our lives here and globally. And we're even seeing things like this last photo I'm showing is really the Pope's coronation last year or the year before, and you can just see how much mobile devices impact even things like that. Pretty incredible. I've also got a few little sort of fun facts here that we'll run through just to kick things off and really, again, show the evolution of technology and how powerful these tools are that we have at our disposal. So these are a couple of numbers here, 2,054 and 25,500. So 2,054 really represents MIPS, which is the computing power. How do you represent a computing power of a computer? So 15 years ago, a desktop computer had 2,000 MIPS, so the processing power was considered to be 2,000 of a desktop computer 15 years ago. Today, the compute power of the iPhone 6, a small, tiny device that we carry around our pockets, is 10 times more powerful from a compute perspective than desktop computers we were using just 15 years ago. So really sort of it shows the example of how far technologies go and how much power we're actually carrying around in our pockets, and that we should be able to take advantage of from both from our daily lives perspective, but also from a work perspective. The next one is really sort of show the how far technology has expanded globally and how much it's used. So this number here, two numbers here are 65 and 94. So 65% are actually the percent of the world's population that has access to a working toilet. And 94% is the percentage of the world's population that has access to a mobile phone. So again, just showing the incredible pervasiveness of mobile technologies throughout the world. And finally, sort of to show maybe the sort of a generational gap around how powerful these technologies are, but really even how much they're going to mean more for the next generation. 1,017, that's the number of photos that I took with my smartphone last year in 2014. I work in industry, I work in mobile technology, I like taking photos, so I consider the fact that I take quite a few photos with my phone. But that's really nothing compared to my friend's 16-year-old son, who took 36,437 photos and sent them on Snapchat last year. So it just again shows how much we're using technology, but the next generation is using it even more and completely relying on it in the way they communicate. So that sort of sets the tone for what's been happening really more from a consumer perspective, but the fact is that is what's driving all of these amazing technologies to the next level and allowing us to have these tiny computers in our pockets connected to the internet, allow us to communicate in incredible ways, in many ways. And I think what's really happening now is enterprises and businesses are starting to take advantage of that technology. Mobile in many ways is considered probably the most transformative technology that's coming to business, probably more powerful than desktop computers were in the 90s and the web and early cloud computing were in 2000s. and really changing the way that businesses work and people get their jobs done. If we think about sort of the transformation from business systems, traditional legacy systems, which we've probably all used in the past, are generally systems that work in a company's office. They're providing sort of silos of data that are only accessible to the people who are actually sitting in the office and connected with the computers that are in the office. You know, these systems tend to get antiquated fairly quickly. They don't really change much. They don't really evolve much. They aren't integrated into any other system, so it's really hard to get data out of them and into other systems. It's really hard to share information with other companies or people that are outside the office. They generally do not have any capability of supporting mobile or being integrated with mobile. And they tend to require hardware on site at your office and also an IT staff to maintain it. As we move to mobile cloud systems, what we get out of mobile cloud systems is access to these systems, data, and information anywhere, anytime. So no matter where we are, we can connect on the internet, log into our system, and access it. They're mobile enabled, so we can either access them through a browser on our mobile phone, or there are apps that are connected to these devices, so we can work and do our work no matter where we are on any device. They are a lot more flexible and configurable, and they are able to be customized to the way that our companies work. So if you work in a specific way, you're generally able to configure and customize things. And I think if any of you used products like Salesforce, you'll see that level of configurability where if you have a customer record, you can add any types of fields you want to it. You can define it the way that you would define a customer in your industry. The other great thing about mobile cloud solutions, they tend to evolve a lot quicker, and they tend to be continuously evolving and easy to get updates because they're all hosted, or there's ways to download updates from the App Store. When you log into the web, you immediately see the next update. And then there's really a lot better integration between systems, so it makes it a lot easier for these various cloud systems to talk to each other. A lot of the challenges of legacy systems have gone away with cloud systems and make them a lot easier to be integrated. And then finally, we get all these benefits at a lower cost with SaaS, which means software as a service. And really what that means is that it's hosted by the company that provides the software. You don't need to have any hardware. You don't need an IT staff to maintain it. And you're pricing it at a subscription model, so you sort of pay for it as you use it. And again, those bring a lot of benefits from a cost perspective. So that kind of leads us to really the main topic for today, sort of sets all the context for what all of this means in the mortgage field service industry specifically. And after a number of years of working in this industry and others like it, we've sort of determined that there have been 5 critical benefits that our customer and the industry as a whole has been seeing as they've adopted mobile and cloud technologies. And we'll go into each one of these in some detail. But the first one is streamlining vendor management, and we'll talk about the challenges there, but we all know that this industry is made up of lots of companies that work together and assign work to vendors who then assign them to other vendors, and the management of all of that and managing vendors is a critical part of mortgage field service. And the other benefit that we see is the increase in the quality of service that gets provided. So as a company, you can increase and improve the quality of service that you provide to your clients. The third benefit is decreasing delivery time. So one thing is that this industry tends to be very time sensitive. When an inspection needs to be done or work needs to be done, the client generally wants it done as soon as possible. And so the ability to decrease delivery times is critical, also important to getting paid and increasing time to revenue. And the fourth benefit revolves around compliance. We know compliance is a major topic of conversation these days. Lots of new regulations coming in. There's compliance that comes from the government. There's compliance that comes from specific clients and specific banks and other large companies that have specific needs that need to be met, and they require that to be met. Challenging to do that, but technology can help with that. And finally, the final benefit is that with the right technology, it's possible to do this, all of these things, and also lower your costs. So we'll be talking about that as well. So we're going to drill into each of these. We'll start with vendor management, and for each of these topics, the way that we'll do it is Robin will be describing the problems that exist in the industry and that she's experienced in working with customers. And then I'll talk a little bit about how mobile and cloud technologies can help solve those problems. So we'll start with vendor management, and Robin, I'll hand it over to you right now.
Thanks, Kamal. And also, I know in our audience we probably have people who are from a variety of different areas of this mortgage field service. So where we refer to vendors, you can think of this as a vendor system, or you can think of this as subcontractors, but we're basically talking about the companies or the individuals that are going out in the field and doing work either directly or as subcontractors on behalf of you or other companies. And because we work across the industry and have worked with everything from banks to companies that are doing pure field service as a subcontractor, we definitely have heard a lot about the problems that people have. And one of the ones that we hear about frequently is being able to retain good workers, so good vendor companies, but also good subcontractors, good employees. The best ones are being recruited. You know, they're being looked at by other companies. They want the good people, and the good people are now starting to demand that they get the tools they need to do their job effectively. So attracting and retaining them has been something we hear about quite a bit. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the fact that the whole verification of workers in the field is a big problem these days. Sure, in the past, before there were these types of systems, it was even worse. But now that there are some tools in place to make it better to verify people, to validate them, to make sure they're bonded, to make sure they're licensed, to make sure that the person performing the work is the person that they say they are, that's certainly an issue that we hear a lot about. And just managing the orders, you know, inspections can be repetitive, and it is very difficult if you have multiple different customers or clients that are requesting work from you and you've got multiple different lines of business that you're supporting. Managing that work, automating, scheduling that work, getting things done in a way that is not overly time-consuming, that is not all paper-based, that doesn't require whiteboards on the wall and, you know, wipe-off pen to make sure that you're getting it done. I know that that there are a variety of different systems and non-systems that people have had to put in place just to manage this bulk of orders that come in and get them all distributed out. And I think that technology adoption is something we hear about much more recently. And this has been a real frustrating area for quite a few of the prospects and customers I work with, which is in the base of people that are out providing the hands-on field service work, there's every type of device possible. So while we may be talking today, we say mobile, and we're frequently referring to native mobile applications that run on things like smartphones that have all that computing power that Kamal was talking about. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are going to be out, critical good people performing work, who might only have a non-smartphone, or they might have a phone that is internet capable, but they don't have the ability to actually get logged in to the internet, or they're not connected. Beyond that, it takes time for individuals to learn technology processes and systems, whether it be an application on a smartphone or something they're doing through a web browser. Those things still take time. So training, understanding technology, having a language that makes sense to people, knowing the words. You know, do you have an Android phone? Do you have an iPhone? A lot of those things are actually posing big challenges in the market today. And I'm sure that all of you in the audience have many other things that you can think of. And one of the things I wanted to mention is we do have the ability for you to put in questions to us. And by all means, if there are other problems that you're experiencing in any of these areas that we discuss, certainly put them in the question format. You can just say, you know, here's a problem that I'm having, and how can cloud or software as a service or mobile help me? And we'll address that at the end. Kamal, if you wanted to talk about some of the ways that the products can solve these problems.
Sure. So yeah, Rob, thank you. That was a great overview of the problems that exist. And I think that when we talk about, you know, mobile cloud solutions and technology and how they can help with this, I think, you know, when it comes to the concept of attracting and retaining good vendors, and I think we can sort of look at this from both sides. If you are a vendor and you provide services, there's benefits to you as well. If you're a company that is using vendors, there's benefits on that side as well. And often companies are on both sides of the coin. You have clients you need to service, but you're also using sub-vendors to get the work done. So I think one of the things that mobile and cloud technologies can help with is it makes it a lot easier for vendors to manage work. So really what that means is sort of streamlining the process of getting work and managing work, making it very easy to assign work from a client to a sub-vendor to then sub-assign that work one layer down. We know that this industry can be many layers deep between the client who actually needs the work done and the contractor in the field who actually performs the work. So the ability to manage that work and making it easy for your vendors to manage that work makes them happier, it makes them more productive, and makes them more keen to work with you as a client if you can do that. The second piece of it is the job site verification of workers, and we'll talk about this a little bit more on the compliance side as well. But with mobile technology in the field, you can, with a click of a button, verify workers. And there are back-end solutions that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, like what Aspen Grove is doing, and others that are helping with the back-end certification. But the ability to actually check a worker in and verify that they are authorized or have the level of certification or verification to do this work is something else that can happen immediately on the job site. Mobile work orders and photos, again, for the vendor, makes it much easier for them to receive work orders and get them in real time, whether they're in the field or get them in a very simple way instead of exporting a bunch of work orders into an Excel document or emailing a bunch of work orders, then having to then take them, assign them, print them out, hand them to people. All this stuff all these work orders can be received on a mobile device, all the instructions to perform the jobs, the ability to get directions to get to the location, and then to be able to complete all the forms, take the photos that are required for documentation, and do that all on a mobile app makes it much easier for the vendors. To have offline capabilities and is also important, that they can do their work when they're offline. And all of this sort of leads to the technology adoption problem that Robin was talking about. And one of the interesting things about this industry is that there are people in this industry who have really never used technology, but they are often carrying around smartphones. So they understand smartphones, they're using them for email, they're text messaging, they're using Facebook. And so we found that a technology adoption for those workers when it comes to mobile and having mobile apps that are easy to use and support all the things they need to do really helps with that technology adoption. So it's a lot easier than it was before. All right. And with that, we'll move on to the next topic, which is quality. So Robin, I'll let you talk a little bit about some of the problems in the industry around quality.
Great. I think we all know that looking at the way things would have been done, especially with paper, checklists and going out with clipboards and filling out forms, certainly there's quality issues there, and whether those forms are standardized or not, I think many of the people that we talk to work across multiple different customers or clients. Their clients may be working across multiple different national servicers, and so frequently you'll find that one type of workflow, maybe it's an inspection, has 10 or 12 different types of forms that need to be filled out. If you look at those, especially looking at the way they're done in paper, that can be very difficult for a person out in the field. They can be at one property, they're walking through one way, they go to a new property, they have a completely different document to fill out that has a completely different workflow. So that in and of itself has been an issue. In addition to that, the language is not necessarily standardized. If you have fill-in-the-blank types of forms, whether they're web-based forms or paper forms, you're going to have inconsistent answers from people. An additional thing when we talk about the paper-based side of things, we have clients that are talking to us about going out and doing work in the snow, where they're trying to pull papers out, fill things out, and they're wet. They lose ink. They can't read them when they get back. Even where technology has been introduced, we hear issues around things like the manual process of going and taking all the photographs. Maybe it's multiple devices. They've got a camera, they have to take it out, take these photographs, put it away. So all of these things, again, I think are fairly easy to see how these are the problems. The other issue that has become more of a problem, I think more of a, let's say, an awareness of something, because technology makes it possible for there to be more real-time communication and real-time interaction. One of the problems that we hear about now is where companies don't have these systems in place. They don't have any real-time ability to see the work as it's being done. And I think we all know that results in a lot of difficulties. It can be simply quality of the work that's returned. Maybe the photograph that's taken isn't the right photo. Maybe the form isn't filled out completely. But it could also be that something is done dramatically incorrect and could require people to come out, do repeat visits. So there's a lot of issues that arise around the fact that if you don't have a system in place that is speaking directly to the field, you definitely have issues where you're not getting the benefit of a real-time ability to check in and see how something is going through its progress. I think the last piece is we've all seen web-based systems where you can upload photos and attach them to work orders and fill out the forms. I hear all the time how frustrated people are because they have to go work all day out in the field and they have to come back to an office or come back to a home office and then upload data. There's a lot of issues around quality for that. So clearly it's a problem for vendor satisfaction or contractor and employee satisfaction, but it's also a duplicate process. So that means you have someone who's got eyes on something out in the field maybe at 8 o'clock in the morning, then they're back at home at 8 o'clock at night and they're trying to translate or remember exactly what it was that they did. They might have notes, and we've already talked about the notes might have gotten wet, or they may have typed something in somewhere, but the bottom line is you're not getting that. I'm standing there, I'm looking at it, I'm entering the information, real, what I see in front of me. Now it's 12 hours later and I'm tired and I've got to upload hundreds and hundreds of photos. I may forget what their labels are. I may put them in the wrong order. So just generally speaking, some of these things that I'm referring to as problems I think might be better called opportunities, because these are things that are sort of the way that it had to be up until now. Now that we know that there are other capabilities, these things become really critical.
Great. Thanks, Roman. All right, so when we talk about quality, I think if we think about how mobile and cloud systems, work practically, I think they provide an opportunity to start creating standardized forms. So to have those standardized forms defined in the cloud, so whether they're standardized forms for property inspections or grass cut type work orders or other maintenance type work orders, there's the ability in the cloud for companies using these technologies to create these forms. And not just create these forms, but make them smart, which is define what is required to be filled in, some logic and workflow around these forms, what needs to happen, and really providing those forms in a way that makes it very easy to capture all the data that is required, all the information that's required in the field to improve quality. So when those work orders get out to the field and a contractor logs into their mobile device and they see their work orders, they see these standardized forms. As they log in and they go to a job site and they complete their job, they're able to fill in these forms, see which fields are required, take photos immediately and attach them to those fields, so improving the quality of that information that is being captured. And then also ensuring that all that information is actually completed before the worker in the field can mark it complete. So again, that is a huge part for improving the quality of the information that gets captured. The second thing that these technologies provide is that this information, as it's being captured, is uploaded in real time to the cloud. So someone in the office is responsible for doing quality control or review can see this work being done, ensure that all the information that is required to be collected is, review the photos and make sure all the photos that are needed are there, and actually even contact the person in the field before they leave if it's not there. And again, that just sort of improves the overall quality and also streamlines the quality process that happens. Also around that is if we talk about quality of data, and really there's multiple levels of quality, but we think about quality of data and quality of service. Clients are requiring information, specific information, and things like photos with GPS and date timestamps. And luckily, we have the advantage of these powerful devices that have GPS information, date timestamps, know who's logged in, and can tag photos with all this information, and have that sort of happen instantly and automatically without any manual work being required to tag them in that way and have them available. And I think the final piece is really that as you're delivering reports to your customers, you now have the ability to generate very high quality reports with cloud solutions and configurable reports for many systems, and really just stand out in the crowd with being able to provide that information in a really quality way. All right, so we'll move on to delivery times. And Robin, why don't you tell us a little bit about problems with delivery times?
Yeah, and I think that, again, these are things that maybe were not so much problems until we had these opportunities to improve things with technology. But as we all know, you guys will get hundreds and maybe hundreds and thousands of orders at once. Those things need to be assigned out to people to get work done in the field. That can be tremendously difficult. You have to sort things by location and geography and make sure that you have the right contractors located, and you need to get this information out to them. They need instructions. They need to know what work they have to do. I think that, that obviously if you delay a start, that's going to delay a delivery or a completion time. Furthermore, completing these forms and checklists and inspections and assessments can be time-consuming, as I was mentioning previously, both from the delay in terms of going out onto a job site, having to come back to a home office or an actual office and getting work entered. Maybe it's nighttime by that point, so no one on your side is there to review it, so it doesn't get reviewed until the next day. Generally that's going to be lagging and delaying your ability to complete or deliver a completed inspection or completed work order back to a customer. When we talk about real-time communication, I think this one is huge because there's a big delay in delivery time if these second two, or what do I say, the third and fourth bullet here, you can put them together. There's going to be a big delay in delivery time if you don't identify a problem while someone is in an immediate area, and that's going to require them, maybe you don't identify it till the next day, so it requires them to go back out to a property. That can severely delay the ability to have something delivered on time. And I think one of the other problems that we know is these time deadlines are critical. So we frequently hear about people who don't even get paid because a job was not completed within the time that it was allocated to be completed. And clearly, reporting back to a customer that a job is done is the way that you're going to be able to meet that delivery time. So if that report can be done very quickly, one click, and not require you to have to go log into multiple different systems and upload pictures and prove that the work was done, that's going to be critical. So we frequently hear from people that they're having difficulties in how they report that work is completed back to their customers. So whether that be that they have to go log in, like I said, to different systems, whether it be that they have to create formats that they're not used to, like either scanning in paper reports and then emailing them, or taking some sort of a data-based report and creating a Word document or a PDF document. I'm hearing that there are a lot of different requirements for how the reporting needs to be done, and that today it's incredibly difficult to get those reports out in a timely way and get paid.
Great. So I think that when it comes to delivery times, this is an area that mobile and cloud provides a ton of value, because really what it does is it sort of streamlines and automates the flow of the information, the flow of these work orders from the original client all the way through to the person who's doing the field and all the way back up. And it really is about information flow, which is really one of the benefits that mobile and cloud technologies bring to a variety of different industries. So, instead of information going in one system, then needing to be manually exported into a document or a series of paper forms or sent out as emails to the next layer of vendors who then take those and then have to do the same process, assign them to the next set of vendors. Cloud allows us all of these different entities to sort of collaborate within the same system and do it in a way with the right sort of security and access control, so only people can only see what they're allowed to see. But really, what it really does is allows that information to flow all the way through in much more streamlined ways. So as an example, there can be immediate assignment to vendors and then immediate sub-assignment to the next layer of vendors, and that can happen through the cloud. So you log into your system, you see work orders that have come into your company, perhaps you're the manager, and then you need to sub-assign them. You can do that with, directly through the cloud. The information flows through to the people in the field on their mobile devices. They can complete the forms on site and also capture photos on site and have that instantly uploaded to the cloud. So again, eliminating that manual process of having to go home at the end of the day, try to understand what you scribbled on a piece of paper, or figure out which photos from your camera go on which inspection report. And then I think other elements are sometimes the quality control and validation process can also be very time consuming. So the ability to automate that and have rules and leverage the power of analytics to do automatic validation and automatic quality control and ensure that the photos, the GPS tags and the photos match the GPS location of the property itself. And then finally, the ability to actually easily send back these final reports to clients. So as opposed to having to export them and reformat them and put into an Excel document and then email them, with a click of a button, they can be sent to the client. And that's really all of the things that we're trying to do with mobile and cloud technologies to shorten delivery times. Again, it relates to quality and also being able to get paid more quickly, which is critical to everybody. All right, Robin, maybe we'll move on to compliance.
Yeah, and I think, again, these are pretty straightforward issues, and everyone in this webinar is very aware. I think the biggest one, which maybe isn't even a bullet point here, but is that compliance is just, in this particular industry, is huge. And there's a problem because you have multiple different customers, you're multiple different banks, multiple different laws. There are so many areas of what is done in this mortgage field service that are covered by so many different and ever-changing laws and rules and requirements. And that's at the big picture level. And then when it comes down to your individual customers, every single customer gets to dictate what they need from you for them to say that you're compliant and that your data is validated and that your workers are verified. At the end of it all, I think we know that up to this point, before these technologies were available, there's been fraud. And we happen to know about it because we've had our customers come to us and tell us the situations they've had. We've seen where someone out in the field didn't want to leave their home all day long and go out and do inspections, and so rather they did it one time, and then every week when their new inspection came up, they just uploaded the same pictures from the original inspection, and they were still getting paid. We've heard terrible horror stories of people that have photos to show like a before and after to prove that work has been done, and in fact it's not the right property. So they're showing work being done, but they haven't done the work. We all know that those kinds of things happen. It's human nature and it's sad. But clearly, and Kamal will jump right in here to talk about it, clearly in particular, these smartphones are just crazy in the ways that they've given us the ability to address these problems. So I'll jump over to Kamal and let you talk about how that works.
Sure. I think compliance is it's a big topic. It's a big issue. Technology is not the only piece of it, but I think I think there are things that technology can do to help stay compliant and do the things that are required to meet compliance requirements. I think one nice thing about cloud solutions we talked about earlier is that they're sort of flexible and they're easy to be changed and adapted. And you just automatically get those changes if you are using cloud systems. Whoever your cloud vendor is, whoever's providing you technology, it should generally have the ability to be flexible, stay current, and hopefully keep up to date with the compliance needs themselves. On-site worker verification, we talked about that. The ability, we know that's a critical thing that's coming up and getting a lot of attention right now is that the workers who are on site doing the jobs are verified to do that work. We talked about that earlier, the ability to have check-in and on-site vendor verification. Again, we talked about photos with GPS and date timestamps to make sure that the information that it gets captured is valid and that it can be proven to be valid. It's tamper-proof, and there's proof with those photos. So yeah, those are validated photos. There are fraud detection algorithms. We talked a little bit about that in the quality side of things, but over and above quality is the ability to make sure that this data is valid and the GPS and date timestamps match the date of the inspection and the location of the inspection and the location of the property. And then finally, the ability to take all this data that is being captured and stored in the cloud and use it to do richer reporting around compliance requirements and compliance needs. And so, I think you can look at your cloud and technology vendor to help provide tools that can make sure that all the compliance requirements are met. And then the final topic, the benefit we'll talk about is costs, and then we'll switch over to some questions and answers. Robin, maybe you can cover a few of the problems around cost.
Sure. I think, one of the things that I hear often is how much staff, how many human bodies are required to be hired to handle all of this, and it's not often, it doesn't always have to be employees. There's many companies in this space have to go offshore or use processing centers or alternative systems of workers to go and enter data to do the, we kind of talked about this duplicate data entry, but really it's that typing in, answering these questions, typing in the information, taking orders. Let's say orders are coming in emails or they're coming in written document format. I know that there's a big cost that's associated with having people in centers somewhere take those orders and type them into, let's say, a web-based system if you're using one. But just getting all of this information pulled together has some huge cost impact, whether it be employees or whether it be third parties that are being hired to do this, whether it's local or offshore. I know that also, we say data processing here, but I know that also has to do with the QC and the review. That's another one where there's big costs associated. And repeat site visits, I think it's obvious that's a big problem, big cost. The more downtime, the more that you're out on at a property going to a home a second or a third time, you're certainly not being paid. You're having to pay your subcontractor or your employee. You're certainly not getting paid by your customer for that. And everything in terms of the time frames that we were discussing, payment delays, seriously, that's a cost. You lose interest on money if it's not in your hand. Accounting problems, issues with having to bill out, get your subcontractors paid in a timely manner, and then all of the issues around people, if you think about the resource costs, people calling in, where's my payment, having to track down, make sure that things have been proven so that you can get your payment. All of those things certainly do add up. And then we've mentioned several times that even if you do have systems in place, frequently these days those systems are going to be expensive. They may require hardware, they may require software or additional software products and staff to maintain them. So obviously cost is always a problem. I know that this industry, again, in particular, works on incredibly small margins. And when you're talking about pennies of profit, certainly none of us can afford to spend a dime. So I'll let Kamal finish up with how the technology can benefit you here.
Yeah, I think that one thing that we've seen is that with technology has a great ability to bring efficiencies and benefits, other benefits, but also reduce costs, which at the end of the day sometimes is the most critical thing. And I think what we've seen and how these systems can help is, one is reducing the amount of staff that you have, as Robin mentioned, whether it's outside contractors or it's your internal office staff, and really be able to do more with less staff if you have automation and automated systems in place. And it's all the things that we talked about that reduce the number of manual steps and manual processes that are required, everything from the receiving work orders and reassigning them to vendors, to getting data in real time, to the QC process, to the generation of reports that need to go to your end clients. If we can automate that, it allows you to be a lot more efficient and do a lot more with less staff. We get increased productivity in the field from the same reasons, the ability to get things done more quickly, and be able to reduce repeat site visits that we talked about by getting better quality information and making sure the jobs are completed the first time. And I think finally is really that the models that are out now in modern technology cloud systems is really a software as a service model where everything's hosted, it's all supported. You don't require hardware in your office. You don't require IT staff to maintain it and do installations and updates. That all happens automatically. And you can pay for these things in a more in a subscription model where you sort of pay for them as you use them. And I think those are all things that have driven down the costs of these systems and still allow you to incorporate all the benefits that we talked about earlier. So really, just to wrap up so we can get to questions, I think that we all understand that managing field service is complex and there's lots of moving parts and lots to do to satisfy clients, to manage vendors, to handle quality control and make sure that the work is done properly. But the good news is that there are a lot of great mobile and cloud solutions out there today. And the benefits, I hope you've seen, are significant, and we've seen some incredible results from our clients and just overall in the industry in terms of leveraging technology to make businesses run better. So, we'd like to just leave you with that, with all of these benefits and the fact that this stuff is here, we recommend that you start taking advantage of it now and help your business and see all these great benefits that we talked about today. And if you'd like to talk to us further about it, here's some contact information. Please do. We know you have a lot of options out there, but we'd love to talk to you about what we're doing and how we're seeing these and talk more about things that you see in the industry and how we may be able to help. So with that, we can move to questions and answers.
Thank you, Kamal. We do have a question. I can get it. I can get the question up. It's not letting me.
One of the difficulties of modern technology sometimes is web broadcasting.
True. The question was regarding easy inspections and whether or not the technology has been able to remove third-party entities like that. Because I can't seem to get the actual question to come up and work.
Sure. Well, I think that I'm not sure if they're referring to a product called Easy Inspection or just the ease of inspections, but I think that
there is an Easy Inspector product. Yeah, there's an Easy Inspector product. I don't know what they mean by third-party entities. I think that there's a couple of things. So one is we didn't really go through definitions, and maybe just to help everyone understand, there are a couple different types of things that you'll see in the market today. One is what I would call sort of packaged apps, and those are going to be products that are very specific and sometimes highly functional in your market. I know this is not necessarily something that you'd see in, let's say, property preservation, but one good example would be pest control inspections or potentially like appraisals. So there's quite a few apps that are, I guess, third-party apps that are very specifically configured to do a very specific type of work. How that differs from what we've been talking about is if you go to a vendor that's providing you with a full mobile and cloud solution, you should be looking for a vendor whose mobile and cloud solution is driving what we call native applications to the smartphones, but that would give you an opportunity to not have to have multiple different apps that might be what you're referring to as a third party, and I apologize for not knowing exactly what that meant. But I do think it's important to understand that those are some of the critical differences. One of the other things that I see in the market is there are products that do communicate from the field to the web, but they're not necessarily data-driven products. And much of the benefit that we talked about in this webinar had to do with your ability, if you're using a full mobile cloud solution, you have data now. The data is stored in the cloud. It's highly secure, but it can be manipulated, meaning you can pull that data out and put it into different reports. You can analyze that data. You can keep that data. That's really critical because you will also see a lot of third-party providers that are offering product, but it's not data-driven. It might be a dynamic form that gets filled out in the field, but isn't necessarily coming back in as data. And Kamal, I don't know if there's anything to add there, or...
Yeah, Robin, I think I'll just add, I think just to build on your point a little bit, I think that there are a variety of different types of solutions out there, and as Robin mentioned, some are very point solutions for doing one specific type of job. And then there are platforms that exist that allow you to use that platform or that solution or technology across a variety of different types of work. So whether it's inspections or work order management or appraisals or valuations or BPOs, there are platforms that will support the ability to do all of those things with a single, that are provided by a single vendor and are flexible enough to work in all those different types of work that you might be doing and performing. But again, if we didn't answer your question, feel free to reach out to us directly, and we'd be happy to discuss further.
Okay, Kamal and Robin, thank you. That was the only question we had at this time.
Okay, great.
Okay, so this concludes our webinar for today. If you have any further questions, please contact us at any time. We thank you for joining us and hope you have a great day.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.